Hello and welcome everyone. Now we'll learn one of the lesson from CBSE class 8 English. The name of lesson is The Selfish Giant. The lesson Selfish Giant is listened by Oscar Wilde. Let's know something about the author. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet and playwright. He was born on 16 October 1854 in Westland Row, Dublin, Ireland, UK. He died on 13 November 1900 in Paris, France. And his period is asceticism. And his famous movies are Wild Day, Dorian Gray, and The Importance of Being Earnest. So let's know something about the introductory part of the lesson, the selfish giant. Here selfish means thinking of oneself only, and giant is demon. So therefore the demon who is narrow-minded, he is very much narrow-minded. So this story is about the selfishness of giant. It is a short story with the elements of fairy tales and fantasy imagination. This present lesson deals with theme that one should not be selfish or narrow-minded. So in this lesson some difficult words will occur. The first one is Cornish Ogre, a giant of Cornwall in UK. Ogre. In Ireland, in legend, in fairy tales, the crucial giant was eat people. In common uses, a very frightening person. Gruff, rough. Trespassers, those who enter somebody's land or property without his or her permission. Here, the boy is the trespasser in the premises of the giant as he enter in the boundary without permission. That's why that boy to be said as a trespasser in the garden of selfish giant. Then here linnet, a brownish songbird found in Europe. Casement, a window that opens in on hinges like a door. Stolop came quietly without being noticed. Feeble, weak. Slay, key. So let's see the explanation of the lesson. Part 1. Actually there are two parts. In the first part we are here to see about the children's happiness in the garden. Children in giant's garden. Children used to play in the giant's garden every afternoon. They did so while coming from school. It was a large, lovely garden. It had soft grass. There were fruit trees in it. They bore rich fruits from the garden of the sleepy giant. The birds sang sweetly. The children were happy to play in it. But as the giant had been away and he returns his home, and that time, the return of the giant. One day the giant came back after 7 years. He had stayed with his friends, with the Cornish Ogre, and he saw the children playing in his garden. The children ran away as they saw him. He said that it was his own garden and he won't allow anyone to come in the garden. So don't come again, move away. He would not allow anyone to play there. He built a wall around it and also put a notice board on it. And it was warning on it, trespassers. The one who enter without permission will be prosecuted or punished. The children became sad, and the sad children. The children had no other place to play. They used to wander, they used to roam here and there round the high walls, and they used to talk about the beautiful gardens inside of the giant. Similarly, the children were unhappy. Similarly, the garden also appeared sad, gloomy. The spring came, there were blossoms, there was flourishing of the little birds. It was a winter in the giant's garden. The birds didn't sing as they were no children. Once a beautiful flower came out of the grass, it saw the notice board, and the same flower went back to sleep. The giant's garden, there were the snow and the frost only. Entire garden was covered with the snow of the demon. Everything in it looked white. Then came the north wind. It stayed with them, and the hail also came. That is the uh, frozen balls of ice from the sky. So thereafter, after wind, the spring followed. In the spring season, the garden of Damon, the selfish giant, appeared somewhat changed. One morning, the giant heard some lovely music, and it was very sweet. He thought that it must be the king's musicians, but it was a linnet, a singing bird. The bird was singing outside his window, and the giant found its song was very, very sweet. Then hail stopped dancing. The north wind stopped. The giant felt that the spring had come. So here we are with the part number 2. The most wonderful sight what the selfish giant had seen. The children had entered from the little part of the wall, and they were playing in the garden, and a change had occurred in the selfish giant's garden. The giant saw the most lovely sight. It was a playing of children in the garden. The children had entered his garden through a little hole making in the wall, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. The trees were very glad, happy to have them with them. They had blossomed, they had flourished. The birds were flying about the trees, and they were chirping also. The flowers were also looking up. It was a lovely sight, but in the corner there was still winter. In the garden of one corner, still there was winter because no one was there to play. And the selfish giant found the little boy over there. In that corner, a small boy was standing, and he could not reach to the branches of the tree. He wanted to climb the tree. He was crying and wondering about it, roaming around it. The north wind blew and roared. The tree asked the boy to climb. It bent its branches down, but the boy couldn't climb. So now it was a help of the selfish giant to share the emotion, share the feelings of the little boy. The giant's heart melted at the scene, and he said that it was really a selfish that one should have thinking himself. So selfish giant also said, and now he understood why the spring didn't come earlier, and the spring was waiting for children to come in the garden. So he would put that little boy on the top of the tree. He would also pull down the wall and damage it, remove it, and allow the children to play it. His garden shall be the children's playground forever. And he was sorry now for what he had done before by prohibiting, not allowing the children to play in his garden. The entire garden now was free for the children and the selfish giant to play. So selfish giant and children together, they were playing in the garden. When the children saw the giant, they ran away. The garden became winter again. Only the little boy didn't run. He was weeping. He didn't see the giant coming. The giant put the boy up into the trees. The trees blossomed at once. The little boy kissed the giant. The other children saw that the giant was not wicked, bad, cruel one. So they came running back again and joined the little boy and the giant to play in the garden. So with them came the spring again back, and the giant told the children that it was their garden. So he pulled down the wall. People saw the giant playing with the children during the noontime. But still, there was an absent child. Every afternoon, the children came and played with the giant, but the giant wanted to see the little boy with whom he played before, and the little boy did not come. So, the most beautiful flowers he was observing in the garden. Years went over, the giant grew big, and he watched the children playing. He used to say that children were the most beautiful flowers of his garden and on the world. So now this is the time to return of the little boy. One winter morning, the giant suddenly rubbed his eyes and he saw a very beautiful scene in his garden. In one corner, there stood a lovely tree with white blossoms. Its branches were golden. The little boy stood under it, and the giant saw that little boy was wounded, injured, and he had the print of two nails on his hands and feet. The giant was very angry, and he said that he would kill the man who had wounded this little boy. And now, thereby the selfish giant developed the relationship and emotions with the little boy, and entirely the selfish giant's garden now turned into the paradise for the children. But the boy told the giant that those were the wounds of the love. The giant at once asked the boy who he was. The strange fear ran in the body of the giant, and the boy smiled and said the giant to come with him to his garden, and his garden now has become paradise. The giant found the dead later on. After many days, it was a time for the weak demon giant to pass from this world. The children found the giant dead under the tree, and he was covered with the white blossoms. The flowers had fallen from the trees and covered entire the body. It was great honor for the selfish giant who turned to be a good man, good human, and thereby it was a great honor paid by the flowers to this dead, departed soul of the giant. So, children, hereby we conclude that in this lesson we have seen that the children like to enjoy the freedom, they wanted to play. So, let's them to be played with whatever they want. So, even I should say that the children are feeling that the playing in the garden is good for them. So, I hope you understood the lessons. Thereby, we end this lesson. Thank you.